Hi everyone, welcome back to Gourmet Gateaux. Now in this video I'll be showing you how to make one of my most popular and my best selling flowers, which is a David Austin sugar rose. Let's get started. So guys, to make your David Austin rose, you're going to need something you can hang your flower on and a drying rack, the storage board, 3 of the smallest circle cutters, your 2 largest David Austin cutters, some floral tape, your peony veiners, 2 rolling pins. Well, I have 2 rolling pins because one's flat and one's got the round edge. The round edge is the one I need, but because this has got a pattern on it on the rolling pin, I use this one to roll my paste out before I put it in the pasta machine, and or a ball tool, 20 gauge green floral wire, your foam pad, some gum paste, scissors, a knife, a cocktail stick or a skewer, gel colours of your choice. Now this is a tangerine apricot and I like to use sugar flare, a 5 cm craft ball, sugar glue, and you may need some corn flour, a paintbrush for your sugar glue, and your pasta machine. So let's begin. First we're going to prepare our bud, and this is a 5 cm foam bud, and we're going to be cutting it in half. So you just want to get it, put it on your table, and then just cut half. Just like so. And we only need the half, so you can put that one to the side. And then we're going to prepare our bud by poking a hole in it with a cocktail stick all the way through to the other side. And then through that hole we're going to just put our floral wire in. So it's in the center of the wire, and then we're just going to bring it down, cross it over and twist it. And if it's loose, you can just get some pliers or something to tighten it with and just tighten it. Just so it's fairly tight. And that's our bud ready. And now we're going to colour our icing, for which I usually wear some disposable gloves to save my hands from getting coloured. And even then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So this is going to be used for the center of the rose. I'm going to do the center in a sort of orangey pinky colour, and I'm going to do the outer petals in a pink colour. So it has a little bit of that two-tone effect. So you first want to make it pliable by adding some Trex into it. And then I'm going to first go ahead and add a little dash of the pink colour. And this is a Wilton pink. So just a dab of that. You want to start off by adding small amounts of colour depending on what sort of shade you're looking for. And then I'm going to add some orange to this, and this is by Sugar Flair. And this is the tangerine apricot colour. And I've added more orange than the pink. And you don't have to use the one colour, you could mix a few colours together to get the shade you're wanting. And this is exactly the shade I was looking for. And I'm just going to tone it down by adding a little bit of cream to it. And that's the perfect shade I was wanting. So don't be afraid to mix different colours to get your required shade. And I'm now going to put this in a freezer bag. Because it's flour paste, you want to keep it covered at all times if you're not using it. You don't want any air getting into this, otherwise it will dry the paste out. So pop it in a freezer bag and just seal it, or you can wrap it in some cling film. And I'm going to do the pink as well whilst I'm colouring the icing. So I'm just going to colour my remaining petals pink, that one that I was going to use. And again, you just want to make it pliable. I'm just going to pop it in the same freezer bag because I'll be using both anyway. So I'm just going to keep them separate from each other. Put that one in one corner and then put that one in the other corner. And now we're going to go ahead and start making the flower. So we're first going to get the paste that we're going to use for the inside, if you're using a different colour for the outer petals. And if it's a little bit sticky, just let it air dry for a couple of minutes. Or you can add some cornstarch, and you just want to roll it out. And then you want to put it through your pasta machine until you've got the thinnest setting. And then because we don't want the white bit showing when we put our petals in, I'm going to get a large circle cutter and cut out one piece to cover that, which I want to pop in my storage board for the time being. And then we're going to get our two of our smallest cutters of the circle cutter set, and we're just going to cut out a few of these, around 6, 7, even 8 each. Now, once you've done all of them, just cover them in from your storage board and pop the paste back in. And then we want to get our foam pad and get the largest petal. Get your rolling pin, the one with the curved edge, and just make it a little bit bigger and thin it from the center all the way to the outer side. And this petal is just going to be used to cover the white bud. Then you want to get your sugar glue and a brush, and you just want to cover the bud. And you just want to coat it with sugar glue. And then just stick that on top. There. And it doesn't matter about the bumpy bits. Don't worry too much about them. And then we're going to get our one big and one small petal. And get our ball tool this time. And from the larger side of the ball tool, just go around in circles from the center up until the outer bits, just to thin them and frill them ever so slightly. And then just pat them flat. And the same for this one. And then we're just going to glue the center of the bigger petal. And just stick the small one in the middle. And then we're going to make a line with glue in the middle from the top to the bottom. So just a single line. And we're going to fold that in half. So just the middle bit is glued and this bit is still open. And then we're going to do that for the rest of these. So again, just the middle bit. You don't want to put too much pressure, as we don't want them too frilly, but we're just thinning them out ever so slightly. And making the petal a little bit bigger. And again with the small one. And then glue in the middle. And then glue in this middle again, make a line and then fold over and just press. And now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of them, and then I'll come back and show you once I've done them all. So I have done 15 of these, and you now want to first glue the petal that you put on the ball to cover it. So it's completely covered, and then just let it sit for a couple of seconds for it to get tacky. And then you just want to start putting one in the middle first. If you look at it sort of like a clock and you've got 12, 3, 6 and 9, if you've got those areas covered first, it makes it so much easier to add the rest. So now that we've got the 4 top numbers covered, we can then go ahead and fill in the gaps. You may need to snip off the ends as well. And then just cover them. And you may not need all of them either, but you could possibly fit 3 or 4 of these into the gaps all the way around. And if you have a fuller center, it'll look more beautiful. And you can just move them about as well, the ones that you've already placed, just so you manage to fit all of them in. And you just want to push them towards the base so they stick. And just keep going until you have a full center. This bit is a little tricky. And you will need more. Just keep filling them up. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and do a couple more. But I like my David Austins with a full center to make them look more natural. And this is by far the easiest way of making a David Austin rose. And we don't want this to dry before adding our first layer on, because if it dries and we start adding our layers, our first layer, it'll be really difficult to maneuver and manipulate the center as to how we want it. So you want to put these on, and then you really want to cut out your petals and start putting them together as well. I can fit one more in. And then what I tend to do is get my cocktail stick and just open them up slightly. You could do this after you've added your first layer as well. I think that might be better. But I just want to show you very quickly how I open them up. But I am going to go ahead and snip the extra bits off. I'm going to get my scissors and just take the tips off. Just so I don't have to mess around with the petals on my first layer because of these. So just take it close to the bud and just snip. You don't have to do this step, but it's just easier to apply the first row if you do. Now I'm going to quickly cut my petals out and start placing them on the bud, and I'll show you how to sort the center out as well once we start putting our petals together. So for the petals, you'll need your 2 largest cutters of your David Austin cutter set and your peony veiner. And I'm going to quickly cut out 7 of these petals. But we're first going to be using the smaller one of the 2. And quickly roll it out. Again, if it's tacky, just apply some cornstarch to it or let it air dry for a couple of minutes. If you find that it's sticking to your rolling pin, you can either add some corn flour to it, or you can apply some Trex to the rolling pin just so it doesn't stick. And you want to put it through your pasta machine again on the thickest to the thinnest. And we're first going to cut out 6 of these and put them in your storage board. If you've got some extra paste, just cut some more petals out for the next row. And be sure to always cover your paste when not in use. And what you're going to do is you're going to get your first petal and we're going to roll it out from the middle to the edges, just to thin it out further, and the sides as well. And then we're going to pop it in our veiner and then vein the petal. It doesn't matter if you can't fit it on fully, as long as the top bit is veined, that's fine. And then you want to just apply some pressure. And for this, you'll need your apple tray. And you get some really nice, it doesn't matter if it tears as well, really nice veins. There we go. And then we get our apple tray. and we just put that in the middle, just for that cup shape. But this time we don't want to press the center in. We just want to take all the creases out and just let it sit like so. I've not pushed the center in at all, and we want to do that for the rest of the petals. So again, just roll it out, and it doesn't matter if the petal sort of loses its shape, because that'll just make it look more natural. And again, just vein. If it sticks to your vein, just add some corn flour to it. Or you can always, when you take it out, just peel the veiner away from the petal rather than peeling the petal away from the veiner. Hopefully that makes sense. And then in the apple tray, make sure you take the creases out, as we don't want anything to be creased at this stage. But the bottom's fine, as long as the top is crease free. And that's it, you just leave that to set. And once I do the rest, we're just going to leave it to set for 5 to 10 minutes, just enough so it holds its cup shape and it's still flexible for us to apply. So I've done 6 of these and they're now stable enough to go on the rose. And they're still flexible, but they've got that nice cup shape that we were looking for. So I'm going to quickly take them out of the apple tray. And even our center is not dry yet, so we're perfectly fine to stick it on now. And we're going to glue the left and right side of the petal, but all the way to the top, leaving an inch without glue from the top. And with this, you can either stick it above the center section, or you can just stick it at the same height. But I'm going to stick it a little bit above the center. Because the petal's cupped, it's sort of covered the sides of the bud, so you're not able to see that. And then you just want to stretch that across until it sticks, and you can stick that down and then just snip that off once you've added all the petals. And you can go clockwise or anti-clockwise with this, completely up to you. Just keep turning it upside down and sticking it together, and then we can snip these bits off. You're going to keep going round. If it does tend to get in your way, you can just give it a quick snip before going any more further. And this will just give it a clean finish. and keep going. And then you want to peel that one back, the first one. Again, it doesn't matter if it tears, but once you peel it back and we add the next layer on, no one's going to see that. And if it sort of goes too back, then just support it with your other hand. And then the last petal can get tucked underneath that first one. And just bring that across and tighten it up again. And then just stick them all down at the base. Snip any excess off. And you want this row to be tight, like so. Once you've added the first layer, it should look like this. Then just press it down wherever you think it's not stuck again, just to make sure it sticks. And then now we can go ahead and sort out our middle bit. So with your cocktail stick, you just want to open them up a little. And you don't have to do this step, this is just optional. I, however, like to. And then you want to leave this to fully set before adding our next layer. So you want to leave it for around an hour. So whilst this was drying, I cut out my next row of petals. So I've done 6 of these and 6 of the larger ones as well. And we're only going to be adding 2 more layers and then we're going to stop. And this has now fully dried. It's already looking gorgeous. And we're now going to do the exact same thing as we did for the first row. So we're going to roll it out to thin it even more. And then we're going to pop it in our apple tray to get that nice little cup shape after veining it. And we really just want the top bits to be veined more than anything if you can't fit the whole petal in. And then in the apple tray again, and we don't want any creases again at this stage. But if you get some, that's fine, just not too many. So anything that makes the petals look more natural is fine. And I'm going to do 6 of these. So I've done the 6 petals for our next layer. And in the meantime, whilst they dry a little, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some stamens into the center of my flower. So all I've done is I've got some yellow stamens. I've chopped them a little bit just so I only have the top head of the stamen, and I've wrapped some cocktail stick around it with some floral tape just so I can poke it in the flower easily. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to put that right in. And I'm going to use my scissors to sort of push it in a little bit more. It should look like that. So now that the petals have had time to dry, we're going to take them out of the apple tray. And again, we're going to glue just the left and right side of the petal, but this time up to about a half. And then some in the middle. Be sure to apply enough glue so the petal sticks. And this time, we're going to add the petals at the same height, but on a join of the previous row. And then again, we're just going to turn it upside down and stick the base. But this time I want the whole petal stuck before I chop the little excess off. So you'll get that little bit of a gap there. And that's how we want it. Then go ahead and add the rest. Again, at the same height or slightly below it, but not above it. And just keep going until you've gone all the way around. And then you want to peel back the first one. Then tuck your last one underneath. And then overlap that one. And then you just want to pull them out, opening them up just a tiny bit, like so. And then we're going to leave that to dry fully for another hour before adding our last and final row. But at this stage, you want to hang it upside down for it to dry. You want to get a rack, bend the wire, and just hang it upside down for it to dry fully. So we're now going to get our last and final row ready. And we're going to be doing the exact same thing. And this is the largest of the two cutters that we use now. So we first used this one for our previous two rows, and now we're going to use the largest one for our last row. Although you don't have to use the largest one, you could just use the same size. That's completely up to you. And we're going to put them in the apple tray just as normal. But this time we're going to rub the center against the apple tray a tiny bit. So it's got more of a cup shape to it. And we're going to do that to the rest of the petals as well. So now that the final row has now dried, I'm going to take out the apple tray and I'm going to show you how we're going to add these. We're still going to glue the left and right side of the petal. I won't do that one just yet, just in case we don't need it. And what we're going to do differently with this is we're going to apply it on the join again, the same height as our previous layer. And what we're going to do is we're just going to bend the tips back ever so slightly from both tips. So add it to the same height and then just bend them. And again, we're just going to take the extra paste off. And then just push it down. Just like so. And I'm going to show you how we do that first. So if we do that first, it'll make it easier for us to put the petals on. So just bend the tips, and you don't have to do this step. And then we're going to go ahead and add them to our flower. And with this, you want to do it slightly towards the left so that you're applying the petals on a slant. You want to overlap by a half, but again, you want to put them at the same height as the previous row, or below the previous row, but not above it. Then we can open them up at the end. So on a slant at the same height, overlapping by a half. So again, sit height, overlapping by a half. And if you can fit both petals on, that's absolutely fine. And if you can't and you can only fit the one, that's absolutely fine as well. And then you want to peel back the first petal. But I think we'll be able to fit both petals on. Get rid of the extra paste. And then just peel that back a little bit more. And bend this back from both sides. Remember, we're just doing the tips. And then add the glue. And then support it with your left hand, peel it back. And it doesn't matter if it tears, because again, once it goes into the kit, no one's going to see it. And then just add that in, tuck it underneath. And then just pull that back. And stick that down, turn it upside down, and just get rid of the extra paste. And then just make sure it's all secure at the bottom. Just make sure it's all secure at the bottom. You can just open the petals further. Or keep them closed, however you want. But for now, I would leave that to dry upside down. So on your rack, hang it upside down again and leave it to dry for an hour or two upside down. And then you want to hang it upright and leave it to dry overnight, providing the petals are not falling backwards or falling off. And if they are, then just keep it upside down for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then you can hang it upright and then leave it overnight. So that's how it looks right now. And it's not completely dry. The petals still have movement to them. So I've just positioned them how I want them to be. I've opened them up slightly. And now I'm gonna leave it hanging upright as the petals are not falling off to dry fully. But before I do that, I just wanna give the inside a little bit more pink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some Sugar Flare Blush Pink petal dust, and I'm going to get a brush, and I'm just going to dab the brush in the colour and then just dab the extra off the brush as well. And then I'm just going to go over the middle section so it has a bit of a pink tone to it as well. And I'm not covering it all, I'm just doing it in little bits because I want it to look natural. And then just take a step back and see how it looks. And if you feel that you need to add a little bit more, by all means do so. And it doesn't have to be pink, you can go for any colour you want. And that's how the finished flower looks. So once you've done that, just flip it over and get some floral tape. And just wrap it around your stem, and this will give your wire a neat finished look as well. You want to stretch it to release the glue, and then you just want to keep wrapping it round and then bringing it right to the bottom of the stem. Like so. And that's our finished David Austin sugar rose. It looks absolutely stunning, and when I've finished the centre off by dusting it, it's given it more of a natural look. So it's not like a predominant orange colour. You can see shades of pink in there as well. And by all means, you can make the flower smaller or bigger as you prefer. If you were making a smaller flower, then you would use a smaller foam bud. And if you want to make a bigger flower than this, then just keep adding more layers of the petals. But this is how you would make a David Austin sugar rose. And again, if you like the centre more clustered, then add lots of the little centre bits. If you want them more open, then add less of them. But I like them quite clustered and a full centre, so I added quite a lot of these. But the more you add, the more beautiful the flower looks and realistic it looks, because when you look at a real flower, it has loads of the centre bits. Now, I hope you've enjoyed watching this tutorial, guys. Do check out some of our other online tutorials, and thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with another new tutorial.